In today's world, inequality is not just about how rich you are, it's about how protected your position is, and how invincible the latter is to everyone else. And I would know that because I'm the part of the problem. The system was never designed for everyone to win. And once you realize that, you stop asking why inequality exists and start asking who's making sure that it stays this way. When people think of inequality, one of the first things that comes to their mind is slavery in the United States. But did you know that slavery existed in Eastern Europe for the centuries? In Imperial Russia, slavery lasted over 400 years, only being abolished in 1861. And today, I want to introduce you to the worst slave owner in Russian history, and arguably the country's first female serial killer. Her name, Darya Saltykova. Not a peasant, not a criminal, but an aristocrat. Born into obscene wealth and privilege, the kind of woman who owned land, power, and more than 600 human beings. She came from one of the Russia's oldest noble families, but even as a child, people whispered that Darya was strange. She was known for torturing her dolls, breaking their arms, burning their faces. Today, we'd call that a red flag. But back then, when you were rich, that was just eccentric, not alarming. Still, her father wasn't blind. When she was about 10 years old, he sent her to a monastery, allegedly to calm her mind, or perhaps just to hide her from the society. But when the family finances began to decline, he pulled her out. Darya became the family's financial strategy. She was married off to the rising nobleman named Vladimir Saltykov, a match that elevated the family's social and economic status. But within a few years, he was dead. Illness? Or was it poison? Was it Darya? No one dared to ask, because now she wasn't just privileged, she was untouchable. With his death, Darya inherited everything. On top of her father's estate, she now controlled one of the largest fortunes in Imperial Russia. But she didn't just crave land or status. She wanted control, and she found it in the most terrifying way. She owned over 600 souls. Most of them were young women. And she didn't just mistreat them. She systematically tortured them. Beatings, burnings, starvation, freezing. Her punishments were medieval. Some died for bad laundry, others for looking at her the wrong way. The violence was so brutal, bodies couldn't even be buried at the church anymore, because the corpses were too crushed to pass as the natural death. But Darya, she was known in high society as a philanthropist, a general donor to the church, an angel to the nobility. And when priests asked questions about the disappearing women, she simply said they ran away, drowned, had tragic accidents, and the church, paid handsomely, nodded along. Soon, those accidents were happening weekly. The peasants tried to fight back. Some walked for days to petition to Tsar's court. But every time the complaints vanished, buried under the bureaucracy and bribes. Judges were paid off, officials looked the other way, and the worst of all, victims who spoke up were returned to Darya's estate. Imagine reporting your abuser and being handed back to them in chains. It took 6 years and the personal attention of the Empress Catherine the Great to finally bring Darya to justice. In 1768, she was tried and found guilty of murdering at least 100 women. Some historians believe the number was closer to 138. Others say it could have been much higher. And yet, she wasn't executed because of her noble blood. She was sentenced to the life imprisonment in a convent. Not a prison, a convent. Kept alive, protected. Some say she was never really imprisoned at all, just quietly relocated under a different name. So what does this story tell us? This isn't just about one woman's cruelty. It's a story about what happens when one person has absolute power, when the law serves the rich, and when the poor have no escape. Does this ring a bell? Darya didn't just exploit the system, she was the system. And in the end, even when truth came out, she didn't pay for her crimes. Because when the powerful abuse their power, the powerless have no protection. That's not just injustice, that's inequality by design. And if you think this kind of thing isn't happening today, just think of the diamond industry or fast fashion. The industries might be glossier, the contracts more legal, but the power dynamic, the silence, the fear, still there. When I was a teenager, I had yet another philosophical debate with my father. I was an idealist and quite an idiot. We were debating inequality, my rich self-made dad and me, a silver spoon, who had only heard about poverty in books and watched dramatic, romanticized movies about it. My dad brought up a story of his friend, who was doing really financially well at first, and then completely failed and lost everything. To which I responded in my usual idiotic, bratty manner. Well, if he worked harder like you do, he would stay rich. To which my dad responded something I'll never forget. Never credit my success to hard work. Because then you discredited everyone else who worked hard. Your grandfather worked harder than I ever did. He carried bricks on his back his whole life and never complained. Yet, he died poor. Let that sit for a second. We love stories of self-made success. We love to believe that if you sacrifice, grind, and hustle, you'll rise. But that's not how it works. If that was true, the hardest working people in the world would be the richest. Instead, wealth flows to those with access, inheritance, safety net, and let's be honest, timing. Hard work might get you out of poverty, but it rarely gets you to the top. And the chances of becoming a self-made billionaire? Statistically, it's like winning the lottery and surviving a plane crash on the same day. And when we glorify hustle culture without context, we're not inspiring people, we're gaslighting them, telling them, if you're still poor, that's on you. Here's some chilling data. Over 70% of ultra-wealthy families pass on their wealth to at least one more generation. But only 4% of people born in bottom 20 in developed countries ever make it to the top. And while at the first glance, these statistics seem ideal for the rich, or the rich wannabes, because let's be honest, most of us believe that one day we will make it. The truth is different. When wealth doesn't move, society doesn't either. Mobility freezes, innovation slows down, and frustration grows. And the question we should be asking isn't, how do I get rich? It's how long can a society survive when the bottom stays stuck and the top never looks down? Because systems that only work for the few don't stay standing forever. They crack. But the problem, when the new society gets built, the greed somehow always seems to win.
This is really bad. This is really, really bad.
We want to believe that if I was rich, unlike them, I wouldn't be corrupt. I donate 90% of my wealth. But it's easy to have high morals when they're never tested. And look, maybe you're not into economics. Maybe you think politics is boring. Maybe you've already accepted the world is unfair. Just because you're not watching the game doesn't mean you're not playing in it. Inequality impacts you every single day. It's the reason your rent keeps rising and your salary doesn't. And it's why the school you went to might matter more than your degree. You're getting priced out, locked out, and left out. Systematically. And the worst part? They've convinced most people that it's their own fault. So what can you actually do? Let's be honest. You're not going to close the wealth gap with better morning routine. But that doesn't mean that you are powerless. Here's what you can realistically do. First of all, learn how the system works. Even if it wasn't built for you, stop waiting to feel smart enough to understand economics or politics. You already live inside of this machine. You might as well read the manual. Start with the basics. Who controls your country's wealth? How are the tax laws written? Who benefits from inflation? Because once you understand how money moves, you'll stop thinking you're bad with it, and you'll start seeing how it was designed to move away from you. Second, stop believing in meritocracy. Start playing for leverage. Working hard is great, but working smart, in the right place with the right people, is better. Ask yourself, who's in my network? Who am I learning from? Who am I sitting next to? Leverage comes from proximity, not perfection. Third, treat wealth building like a group project. Your friends, your siblings, your chosen family, help each other up, share job opportunities, teach each other credit, finance, negotiation, pass down any access you get. Because the rich do it all the time. If you don't see it, it's because they call it legacy. We spent this entire season focusing on how rich educate their children, vacation, date, rank each other, divorce, and win from a recession. I'm here to entertain you and tell you a few insights in hopes that they will actually help you to create a better life for yourself. But let's be honest, your desire is not enough. I was debating for a long time on how to approach this episode. Will I make people feel bad for straight up telling them that it's extremely hard to make it if you don't have rich parents like I do? Will I make people lose hope instead of selling them some bullshit course on how to get rich at the age of 25, like many other content creators do? Selling hope to the vulnerable is the easiest way to monetize, but my parents taught me better. I'm sorry if it hurts to hear that, but life is fucking unjust and often things outside of your control. But at the same time, I thought that I would rather voice this than have you blame yourself for not working hard enough. I know you work extremely hard every day. I know you save up money to treat up your loved ones and then question if you will have enough to pay rent the same months. And then, after feeling so beat up and cheated on, you go on Instagram and see yet another successful business owner who just raised millions. You check their age and think, shit, they're younger than me. I'm a failure. But you're not. You're way ahead of people like me, because I'm the product of my parents' investment and the environment I was put in. And you're the product of your own ambition, dedication, and resilience. And I learn from you every day, in the comments, DMs, on the streets when we meet and talk. This channel was created in sincere hopes of decreasing the wealth gap by knowledge sharing. When I started this channel, I wanted to inspire and entertain you. But my main goal was always to remind you that you are not behind. It's just others had the head start. And I hope that hearing this will improve your mental health. Thank you for watching this season. Thank you for your endless love, support, and encouragement. We will see you soon. Like, subscribe, ring a bell, and as always, do whatever you want with this information.